Why do you want them to listen to your podcast?
So that when they think about starting a business, they've got the content that is pointing them in the right direction.
That is such a valuable piece of advice there.
The change in mindset makes a massive difference.
Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars.
Now that it's actually recording, we'll get a bit of a feel for whether we're getting any sort of lag from internet, because it takes sort of like the first 30 seconds just to work out the buffering and make sure that it's all recording properly.
Yeah.
We both have green lights there, which means that our connections are really good and stable.
Always a good start.
I've done a few where the guest does not have all of the green lights, or even where I don't. And it still generally works, but just checking your upload speed, it all seems to be pretty good. So yeah, so if you're comfortable, we'll get started. If you need to take a break for any reason, that's easy for me to edit that out, so don't stress about it. It's whenever. And
Easy.
I would aim for an hour to hour and a half, but maybe I think the longest one I've done was closer to 3.5.
Yeah, I think your one with Craig Castry was quite long, wasn't it?
There's a couple of them that have gone over 3 hours. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, there's definitely some very long ones in there. But I've done so many interviews now, I've forgotten which is which.
Yeah, I bet.
I need to go back through. I've had a couple of requests recently to re-interview people, so I need to go back through the list and start looking at who I should re-interview and replay some of those old ones as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's make a start then.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars. Today we've got Ali with me. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Now, do you go by Ali or do you prefer Ali Marie?
Just Ali.
Ali's good. Yeah, I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And Ali's dog is joining in for the moment.
Yeah, we've got Fern.
Till she gets restless and needs to go chase something.
Yeah.
And she's a beautiful dog. How old is she?
5.
5. Okay, so she's a little bit younger than my toy poodle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Ali, I was in Melbourne a couple of weeks ago and I didn't manage to find you while I was down there. I did catch up with a few contractors at Notting Hill, at the pub at Notting Hill, but didn't catch you, unfortunately. But you're in Melbourne working.
Yeah.
And by the looks, you're a couple of days younger than me. I'm 40. I'll actually be 48 tomorrow.
Oh, happy early birthday.
Don't tell everyone it's my birthday. But yeah, I'm guessing you're a couple of years younger than that. So can we just wind the clock back? You know, at least last year you would have finished school, I'm guessing, a couple of years ago.
Not quite that young, if only.
Oh, there goes my dog having a bark. Told you there'd be somebody joining us soon. So when you finished school, did you go straight into our industry or did you try a couple of other things first?
Kind of. So I left school / got kicked out just before HSC trials started.
You don't look like a rebel, surely.
Look, things happen. It's fine.
In the past.
Bounced between a few jobs. Then I started an apprenticeship at a wholesale nursery out southwest Sydney. So I was just doing mass propagations for hours on end in a greenhouse, just sweltering in the heat.
So you were in Sydney before you went to Melbourne?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Mount Annan, so near Camden.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up out there.
You're saying it was sweltering in the heat out Western Sydney, and I know what that's like. It can be like 10 degrees hotter out there than what it is out the beaches.
Yeah, it was torture. But so I was at that company for just under 3 months and the business was going under. He closed up, and then I got started the second year of the apprenticeship at Flower Power.
Yep, everyone knows them.
Everyone from Sydney anyway,
yep.
From New South Wales. So I did almost the rest of my apprenticeship there, lost that job just before finishing. So I'd pretty much finished all the TAFE work. And then getting paid $7 an hour living out of home just wasn't cutting it. that made it so difficult to even just pay for the bare minimum. So I got my RSA and went into bar work for 7-8 years.
Yeah, something different.
A lot more money, just easy, monotonous work, talking shit with people.
Nurseries are not known for paying real well, are they?
The industry's just not known for paying well. Like, to be paid $7 an hour as a 17, 18-year-old, granted, this was what, 13, 14 years ago now.
That's
But
still massively underpaid. I was paying somebody $20 an hour when I started employing people back around the same time, maybe a little bit before that, around that time, and probably underpaying them at that stage for a new employee, $20 an hour. I was like, all right, that they were okay to work for that, but it was so $7 an hour in the
it
nursery.
was like minimum wage under the age of 21 as an apprentice. The wage is just
Okay, yeah. So under
no
21,
one wants to get into it.
you don't get
for
the
that
mature age
reason.
apprenticeship. You get the base rate. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard work.
Yeah, slogging it like 12-hour days, sometimes 6-7 days a week. Even at Flower Power, like, was working ridiculous hours, 6 days a week. And it was rough. Like, it was great. Like, you learn a lot when you work in retail because it's just consistently
Yeah.
problem solving.
Yep.
And
I
like,
would
I
actually do that if
loved
I was
it,
going to do
but
it again.
totally. Like, it was great fun. But again, it's still retail wages.
Yeah. Yes,
So it's
very.
not making that much.
Yeah, it's very rough on the wages to start with. So, and of course, you were out of there before too long because they were closing up, or was that the first one? Then Flower Power.
That was the first one, and then Flower Power. There was just management was crazy, as most retail places kind of are. So
Yeah.
got out of that one, and then went to bar work for a while until probably, 5 years ago now. Got back into the
I was going to say
industry.
it would have been just about COVID when you left the bar work.
It was COVID, like beginning of COVID, when I left bar work and got back into it, because the pub I was working at in Newtown in Sydney had to close the doors. There was like industry closed. That was it. So that's when I just met my partner, and he is from Melbourne.
Yeah.
And during COVID, I moved down here and then started, like, because it had been so long since I'd done any study for horticulture, I had to go back and start all over again because they changed a few of the course unit numbers or something, so it didn't translate across. So then I just did it again full time during COVID.
Yeah.
It's a free course anyway to do your Cert 3, but just to get that piece of paper.
Yeah.
So I did that, then went and worked for a massive company that services like most of Australia. I was only there for about 2 months. It was one of the most abusive, toxic workplaces I've ever worked at in my life.
Right.
Like, I rolled my ankle at work one day, and the state manager insisted on taking me to a doctor's appointment and going in with me.
Yeah, well.
And because I was just not quite sure, like, I let it happen. And like, to anyone listening, don't do that. It's not okay for your older male boss to take you into a doctor's appointment.
It's a common practice in large businesses. I have seen this because I used to work for workers' comp for an insurance company, and it is quite common practice for larger businesses to have their own return to work coordinator, that goes to the doctor's appointment and says, hey, she's fit for work, and send her back to work and try and convince the doctor that there's nothing wrong or that you can at least do something.
Yeah, see, this was just the state manager, this arrogant male. It was just the most awkward, horrible situation. So I left not long after that. It just wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Then went to work for, you'd probably say, a medium-sized company. I think they've got under 50 employees or so.
All right.
So I was there pretty much bang on 12 months.
Yep.
And I was just having a bit of mental health issues and a lot of things going on, especially post-COVID.
Yeah.
So left there. Then I job hop a lot generally. But so then I went and did a couple job trials with other companies because I never wanted to start my own business. It was always too hard basket. So I did a job trial for a very well-known Melbourne landscape designer.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, we pay $30 an hour, but you need to do all the invoicing. And I was just like, $30 an hour to do all that, I may as well start a business, but still kind of pushed it aside, did another job trial with another company, took the job with them. And then everything they did was just so dodgy. So a young couple brought the company from the guy who'd run it for 20 odd years.
Yeah.
They have never worked in horticulture, have no experience in horticulture, like probably haven't even mowed a lawn themselves before.
Yep.
So
they were just the business owners, not actually hands-on in that sense. And
yeah, but so they would ask you to do ridiculous things, but they also had like the giant 20-litre tubs of glyphosate just sitting on the ground open in the work yard. They were storing all their chemicals in Coke bottles on the work vehicles, like everything you're not supposed to do, they did.
There's a lot of people in our industry that do things outside of what is acceptable. When you're solo, you probably get away with it, but when you've got employees, it really doesn't fly, does it?
Yeah, well, there was like at least, I think, 10 to 12 employees at that company and like a couple of apprentices, but it was right near a train station as well. So any child could have walked into the yard and grabbed or touched anything because they were literally just on the ground in a corner.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah, so they also did a lot of things like horticulturally incorrect, and I was just like, I can't even watch this happening.
Was that out of ignorance? Just because they didn't know?
Just because they didn't know, and they couldn't be told because, like, I'm older than you, I know better. And I'm like, that doesn't mean you're doing it right. Like, the client's garden's going to fucking die.
Now, I'm older than you, Ali, but I know that the biggest reason why people listen to me is not because of what I know, but it's because of the people I interview, like yourself. So
it was just, it was weird company.
Yeah.
But I ended up rage quitting at 5 a.m. on a Monday morning because I had a work ute, but had a family emergency, so I had to leave early on the Friday. But they were like, well, you can't take the ute. So I had to get my partner to drive 40 minutes out to pick me up, to take me home, to drive 3 hours to the family emergency.
Wow.
And then on the Monday to get there by public transport, even though it's like a 35, 40-minute drive in the morning, on public transport it was going to take 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I was not going to pay like $80 for an Uber again. So I got up really early, walked in the dark, walked through all the creepy streets to the bus stop, was waiting. Bus never came. Next bus came. It was the right bus, but for some reason went the wrong direction.
No.
So I got out a kilometre down the road, had to turn around and walk back, and I just emailed them and I said, I'm not coming back. I'm done. And then got COVID. So during COVID, sat there, made business cards, got the ABN, got everything sorted and started the business.
Yeah, okay. So if we look back over that history you've just told us about, the majority of what you've done in the industry was working in nurseries initially, but then doing maintenance work for the companies that were in Melbourne. So I think, did you say there was about 3 or 4 businesses in Melbourne you've worked for? And was it a mix of lawns and gardens, or was it mostly gardening work you were doing?
Mostly garden work. So the only lawns I've done with businesses and with my own is a lawn if it's just part of the job. It's never really the whole job. Like, I hate mowing.
Now, I'm meeting more and more people like you that do that. Majority of people that I've interviewed would be people who do lawn mowing and then they might add gardening to it. So from that point of view, they usually come into it without any horticultural experience. And that's fine, but they've got to gain a lot of knowledge in the process if they're going to start doing gardening so that they can do it properly. Otherwise, they're just cowboys and hacks.
Literally. And I go in and clean up a lot of those messes.
Yeah. So you've been trusted by those companies to some degree, been given a company ute to drive around, all those sorts of things initially. That speaks to your background and the fact that you do have that knowledge and the history to be able to know what to do properly. So when you started your own business 4 or 5 years ago?
I only started working for myself 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Okay. Yep. When you started your own business, you've gone down the same path of targeting predominantly gardening and some lawn mowing with clients where you're doing their gardening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got, I think, 2 clients who I do predominantly just their lawns,
Yeah.
but there's always like additional things.
Yep.
But like on a general schedule basis, it's just their lawn.
And every time you turn up to those clients, you're probably gritting your teeth and going, I've got to just do lawns. I hope they
Literally,
got
I'm like, there's all those weeds. Should I just pluck them while I'm here? And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll just do it quickly.
The amount of times that I've done the same sort of thing where you're there to do a $40 job or an $80 job or whatever it is, and you're like, oh, I'm going to either make it look a little bit tidier by just spending 5 minutes plucking some weeds or getting around up under the edge of the house or whatever it might be to just make the place look a little bit tidier. And it's like, I know I'm not getting paid for it, but I can't help myself.
Literally.
And yeah, I guess it's not a great way to run business, but when you're in the business of making their yard look tidy, you just see that little thing that stands out and you're like, yeah, I can't help it.
And it's the small things that make a difference. Like we're going into people's homes, their safe spaces.
Yeah.
Like if we can do something that takes a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, but they walk into their like front of their house and they see it.
Yep.
It's such a difference for them. Whereas what's 5 minutes? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess this comes back to the business principle behind it, right? So making sure the customer is happy is the most important thing. And if they see that their yard looks tidier, then that's better than the alternative. I guess the counter to that is, and I've talked about this on numerous occasions, when I'm quoting for a customer, if I know that it's a fairly basic job, and for me it's mostly lawn mowing rather than gardening, but if I know it's fairly basic mow, I look at that and I go, okay, the bare minimum price I need for this customer is X. If I sense some red flags or they have mentioned they want extra things doing, or, they've got a dog and you're worried about whether the dog poo's going to not be picked up, then you start going, instead of a half-hour job, this could end up being a 40-minute job or a 45-minute job, especially if they're the sort of person who wants to come out and have a chat. So in the back of your mind, you start going, maybe if I'm spending an extra 5 minutes doing something like that, I'm allowing for the dog poo or whatever else it is, all right, I'll quote accordingly.
Yeah, literally. And that's what it comes down to.
Or after you've done it for 6 months, you go back and say, hey, I need to increase your price because there was a couple of unforeseen things, or just to bring it in line with the pricing of everything else.
Yeah. And that's sometimes a hard thing to say too, but people are pretty receptive and people understand that prices go up and everything else has gone up. So they almost expect it at the moment.
The other thing is, if you're new in business and you're lacking confidence, when you approach the customer, they smell your fear.
Totally.
If you got a lot of confidence and you say, I need to put your price up, here's why, then they usually don't bat an eyelid. Or they turn around and say, I'm not paying extra, see you later. And you're like, well, that's great. It saves me the hassle of firing you. See ya.
Literally. Like I had a client recently, I just do like a quick tidy up of their really small townhouse kind of like side and back area. It's mainly just like 3 steps down, concrete, and like a couple of raised beds. And they never go out there. They never use the area. So I just go in and once every 6 months, give it a whip, spray it, hand pluck the weeds out of the veggie beds and go. But the first time I did it, I only quoted, I think like 120 to 140 because I always give like a range of prices.
Yeah, that's good.
Just helps a bit. So I got messaged by them probably a month or so ago. And they were like, yep, can we book in again? And I was like, look, amount of work that it requires, it's actually going to be double the price. And they were
Yep.
like, yep, that's fine. And just booked in anyway. And I think it was like double and a little bit.
Yeah.
Of what I had originally charged them. And they were like, that's fine. And I was like, okay, then now it's worth me going there. That's fine.
Well, not just worth it, but you're actually smiling about it. You're going, that's actually right where I want to be. I'm really happy doing that job.
Yeah, literally.
That makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, when something's priced correctly, it doesn't feel like such a chore going there. But when you've like severely underquoted and you know you have, you're like, oh, I don't want to do it.
So this is a two-pronged question for you, but on the one hand, you're looking at what it's worth for a job and whether you're smiling because you feel like it's priced correctly. On the other hand is, as you're building your business 2 years in at the moment, have you been able to build up enough good business so that you're happy with your monthly turnover, weekly turnover, annual turnover? So you're getting to the point where you're like, this is so good that there is no way I'd work for somebody else again.
Yeah, I'm never working for someone else again, ever.
Awesome.
Like, it took a while. Like, to start with, I was charging hourly because I just couldn't get my head around how to charge per job when some of my clients are weekly regulars, fortnightly regulars, monthly, quarterly regulars, like how to do that.
Yeah.
But then once I sat down and actually did it, it's worked out so much better and easier.
Yep.
But it did take a lot, and there was a lot of underquoting to start with when I charged per job. But ultimately, it's made it so much easier to hit like daily goals of what I expect to be making, especially just working by myself.
Yeah. So I like being able to swing back and forth between offering hourly rates and job rates. And I've not made it a secret. I've not splashed it publicly everywhere, but I don't do residential jobs now. But yeah, with residential jobs, I'd be quite happy to quote either hourly or per job, and usually you swing towards per job. But to know that some customers are going to want to know the rate and other customers are just going to want to know that it's done for X amount of dollars. If you can handle both, then you've got a lot more confidence when a customer swings and says, hey, actually, I don't like paying per job. I want to pay per hour. And you're like, well, you're paying the same amount anyway. So really, you can do whatever.
But if I said to any of my clients, oh, yeah, I charge $120 an hour minimum, they wouldn't pay it. But if I say, oh, yeah, I can get all that done for, say, $360, they'll be like, yeah, sweet, no worries.
Do you remember an interview I did with a guy who does gardening in Newcastle? And he was saying he was actually putting his price up when I interviewed him. So this is July last year I interviewed him, maybe before July. And he was putting his price up to $175 an hour. And he would tell his customers, I charge hourly, it's $175 an hour.
Incredible.
And see, he was targeting doctors and lawyers and people that were in the richer part of Newcastle. And it's like, well, they want the better gardener, and it's a fraction of what they charge per hour.
Yeah. Well, like, I do a lot of clients in higher income areas.
Yeah.
And it's more, they see my work. I do this house and it's on quite a main street thoroughfare kind of road. And because I do it weekly and have like my branding really big on my shirts.
Yep.
I've gotten so many clients just from doing this one job because they see the quality and the improvement of this garden over the time that I've been doing it.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just a lot of work. So I spend at least 3 or so hours there every Monday morning. And the work speaks for itself. So then when I go to the next client and I say, okay, well, half a day is this price.
Yep.
They're like, yep, easy, no worries.
Yeah, because they're looking at the, call it word of mouth, but, they look around, they see the neighbour's yard and they're like, okay, this is the kind of work we want done. So it's what we got to pay.
Yeah.
So is that the company shirt you're wearing at the moment?
It is.
Yeah, okay.
You can kind of see it a little bit.
Nice. Yep.
So I got one of my tattoo artist friends to design it for me because I didn't
Cool.
want it to look boring or
Yeah.
just same as everyone else. So got her to do a couple of natives and design it up and then got them
Yeah.
printed on shirts. So it's massive on the back. So it's in
Okay.
like hot pink. So it's like
Yep.
very visible.
I was going to say, you don't have a high vis shirt, but your logo's high vis and your hair is high vis. So well.
You couldn't catch me in high vis.
I wear high vis, but I'm like, in my mind, to do commercial work, you need high vis, and if you're doing anything on a roadside, then it just makes sense to be seen rather than being dead. But,
Fair. Very
yeah,
fair.
I think that's the beauty of being in business. You get to decide how you do yours.
Literally. No more ugly uniforms. I can wear what I want.
Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about your rates and share as much or as little as you want to? But I've said on the podcast numerous times, people should aim between $600 and $1,000 a day. The one I was recording yesterday, I was sort of reverberating around the number of $800 a day and going, that's a pretty good number to aim for this year. If you're running a solo business working for yourself, $800 a day is a good goal to aim for. You mentioned the job you were just talking about was sort of a half day. So you would have in your mind what you're aiming for a day or a half day, that sort of job. Yeah. What does that look
Yeah,
like?
so for a full day, I've only been charging $7.20 in labor. And I try and keep that to 6 hours, but I can't help myself. And a lot of the time that will go to about 8 hours.
Yeah.
But even at $7.20, I feel like I've been getting a lot of kickback on that.
Yep.
So it's kind of a hard balance. But I mean, I don't also kind of tell clients that. I always quote with everything included. So if it's like a full tidy up,
Yep.
the quote's laid out in dot points, front yard, backyard, everything that's going to be done down to like leaf blowing at the end, picking up leaf litter and debris. Like they're really detailed, but the price will include the green waste removal, any products used, and all of the above. So the client just gets this one price range for the job. So generally on full day jobs, even though my day rate's $7.20, including everything else, it'll end up being around $1,000 to $2,000.
Yep.
But then, like when I have all my regulars, so I could do $300-$400 jobs in a day, or like a mix and match. But generally, a full day's work sits at least around $1,000.
Yeah, that's great. And of course, the labour rate, when you're putting it like that, the customer's likely to go, that's a lot of money for your labour. But if you change it from saying it's only for labour to saying it's covering business costs, not just labour, and then you have your so your hard costs on top of that, like your tip fees, those sorts of things that are on top of that, then that makes it a little bit more digestible for most people, I think. If I tell my client that I'm charging $100 an hour for labour, they're like, well, what am I paying for? I can pay somebody $30 an hour for labour. I'm like, yeah, but you're hiring a business, not just hiring the labour.
Yeah.
And the
a lot
business,
of people just don't understand it still, though. And I wouldn't have known until I went into business.
yeah, the business comes with insurance, police checks, and tools, and fuel, and vehicles, and those things are all included in that labour cost.
Yeah, literally.
And then you've got your hard costs on top of that. So if you're planting plants or if you're doing a tip run, all those sorts of things are extra.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty lucky. My landlord's great. He doesn't really care what I do. So I've got 3 1,100 litre bins at my place.
So
big, like commercial size bins.
So are they like a skip bin or are they like a bag or?
No, it's basically like, you know the ones you see out the back of shops and stuff, like the giant bins, the lid or whatever?
Yeah, so like
I've
a
just
skip
got,
bin.
yeah,
Just a small
basically.
skip.
Yeah, so I've on wheels. So I've just got 3 of them. JJ Richards comes past every Wednesday and empties them. I just got to drag them onto the nature strip.
That sounds like heavy work.
No, like it's brilliant because I just reverse the ute into the driveway, jump on the tray, empty the bags directly into the bins, and I'm already home and done.
Yeah, well, I guess that from that point of view, it makes it quite easy then, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's honestly where I make a lot of my money. So I think each bin is just over $50 cost to me to empty,
Yeah.
but I charge clients around $80 per one of those 500 kilo gorilla bags. So I charge about $80 per bag to empty.
Yeah.
So like if there's 1 to 2 bags, it'll be around 80 to 100. Anything over that, I classify as like a ute load, and
Yep.
that's around 140. But I could fit in 2 ute loads into one bin. So I'm making $280 and it's only costing me $50. So that's $230 made per bin.
Yeah. Now, do they charge any other fees, ongoing fees for keeping those skip bins there? I'm just trying to think if there's another, like
Nope.
dumpster is the right word for it, isn't it?
Yeah. No extra fees, no nothing. It's just the cost of the empty.
Yeah. Did you have a setup fee when you asked them to supply 3
Nope.
bins? No.
They just dropped them off.
Awesome.
It's really convenient because going to the tip closes at 2:30. 2:30. Who, like, if you can finish work by 2:30, you're doing something right because, like, I did today, but that's because I needed to.
Yep.
But generally, I'll leave home at 6:30 in the morning, and sometimes I'm not home till between 6 and 8 p.m.
Yeah, of course. And, I think I appreciate that you're finished up early today so we could do this interview. But, yeah, definitely you need to be looking at that. And I know with my local tip, I think they have a 4 p.m. cutoff. But if you turn up at 3:55, they're not real happy to see you, I can tell you that.
See, 4 p.m., I probably wouldn't have had to look into different options, but 2:30, I'm just getting started, really.
But
It's
that's
only,
also
8 hours into the day?
that also represents pretty good value, $50 for each of those bins. I'm just doing the math
Way
on
cheaper
that.
than the tip. Way cheaper.
So my trailer is 8 by 5 by 5, and we're talking feet, right? So 5 foot wide, 8 feet long, 5 feet high, fully enclosed. And last time I did tip runs in that, which is going back a little while now, I think sort of like for green waste, it was around $100 per trailer load. So you'd probably might be a little bit cheaper than what you're paying, but I had to go to the tip.
Literally, I just reverse into the driveway at home and empty them. Done.
So yeah, I would generally account for, if I was doing a cleanup job, I would account for an hour to go to the tip and back to a job site each time. And that probably wasn't enough time for the actual muck around of going to the tip. Sometimes it was good, sometimes it was not as good. But yeah.
Going to the tip was painful.
It sounds like quite a good viable option. Obviously, it depends on where you are and whether you find somebody. You said JJ Richards. Yeah, whether they're available or there's another company available that does the same sort of service.
It depends on your street as well as to what bins you can get and like if certain trucks can get down your street.
Yep.
Because they had to assess my address first because the truck like rear lifts them. So they had to make sure none of the power cables or anything were too low in the street or any trees were too low and all that stuff to make sure it was feasible.
I can imagine they also prefer to go to a commercial premises rather than a residential address.
Probably. Like, I haven't had many issues with them. Like, I did load them up pretty heavy one time, but I dragged them out myself, put them on the nature strip, and then they came to take them and they said they were too heavy. And I called them and I was like, I put them out there. How weak are you? Like, you guys are these huge burly blokes and you can't move them?
Yeah.
Like, I'll come out and move them for you. Like, what? And they were like, oh, what? You did it? And I'm like, yeah. Like, what? So I made them come back and do it, and they did. But I was just like, they're not that heavy.
So then from then on, you're mindful of making sure that they're suitable for softer people to lift.
Yeah, literally. Well, there's 100 kilo max on them, and then every kilo after that is like 40, 50 cents per kilo, I think it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, even loading them up as much as I do, because it's not like it's just grass clippings, like it's all hedges or cut up trees or random stuff.
And it's normally pretty light.
Yeah, I've never gotten charged for them being overweight.
Yeah. I know there's once or twice I've done a tip run where I've blocked some large trees and like jumped, like had a stump or something and doing all right, chuck the blocks in the trailer. And it's like, okay, I know that way. No, I'm paying for it at the tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the time with green waste, it's not like that. It's the light, fluffy stuff.
Yeah, it's easy.
Can you do anything other than green waste in those, or would you have to specify?
That's the one downfall that does kind of annoy me, is they don't have green waste specific bins. It's just general waste.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like most people,
I'm like,
care less, but if you're doing majority green waste, it's nice to be environmentally friendly, isn't it?
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I do end up with random things. Like, a client will be like, "Oh, I've got this broken chair and I don't know what to do with it," and I'm like, throw it on the ute. Like, just chuck it in the bin.
Yep.
And then they're grateful because they're like, I have no way to get rid of this thing. And it doesn't really make a difference to me at all.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a good advantage with having them as general waste.
Yeah.
Efficiency is the thing that rules a business and the decisions you make as a small business owner. Right Mowers give you the options in their product lineup to match efficiency with size, fuel usage, and the type of jobs you want to target, from catching to mulching or side discharge, from roadside verges to acreages, and manicured lawns to 6 feet tall and super long. I've been using the Right Stander I 42-inch with a Catch Pro for manicured areas and the Stander ZK61 to maximise productivity for large open acreage mowing. If you need to replace your push mower, try the 32-inch Stander B. If you have more open access to residential properties, there's a 42 through 48-inch option that suits you. And if you want to enter the acreage market, the 52, 61 and 72-inch machines have choices in engine size and model type to suit the work you want it to do. Right Standards go the distance, saving you time and money, season after season.
From the time you started your business, how long did it take you to get busy, and what do you consider a full schedule? Do you do 4 days a week, 5 days a week?
5 days a week, never on weekends.
Yeah, awesome. High five.
Within the first 6 months, I brought a 2-year-old Toyota Hilux and kitted it out completely. So it didn't take too long for things to pick up to a substantial point.
Yeah, okay. So you bought a Hilux within 6 months. What were you using before the Hilux? Yeah, we have to ask.
So my father-in-law gave us his Commodore because he could no longer drive. He's since passed away, but so I was using the Commodore and a 6x4 box trailer that they also gave us.
Yeah.
So I would just shove all the tools loosely into the back of the trailer. I couldn't back the trailer, mind you, so I could only park if I could drive straight into a spot, which isn't the case at all in most of Melbourne, like Metro Melbourne, kind of where I work anyway.
Yep.
So I had that, but it had issues with like the key. There was like just an issue with the key. So a couple times I got stuck at a job.
That's a normal Holden thing.
Sat there indefinitely just being like, the car won't start.
Yep.
So then I looked into it and got finance and found a 2022 Toyota Hilux with 30,000 kilometers on the clock, brand new, tray had never been touched.
Single cab, 2-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect work vehicle.
Yeah, like literally all I need, all I wanted. So then just put like big toolbox on one side, short, flat one on the other side.
Yep.
And got it all set up. And it's been great.
Yeah, nice. So that's great. So within 6 months, your schedule was pretty busy. So 5 days a week. And by the sounds of it, you're doing anywhere up to 12 or even over 12 hours in a day sometimes.
Yeah, it's only because I'm an idiot and I can't, like, once I'm focused in on something, I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh, there's just this one little bit. Oh, there's just this one little bit. Like, I finished mowing this overgrown nature strip last night just after the sunset using the light on my ego mower.
We're twinning because last night I was mowing my own lawn and I switched the light on my ego mower for the first time because it was seriously made a difference. I was like, I want to get
Literally,
my lawn done.
it was the first time. I was like, where's the light switch? And I was like, oh, right there.
And my robot mower needs new wheels on it at the moment, so I'm waiting for new wheels before I get it back out there doing it.
Oh, how inconvenient.
It's so inconvenient having to use the ego instead of the robot doing it for me.
Well, see, again, I hate mowing. Even when I started the business, I had someone from LMCA mowing my lawn for me because I hate doing it that much.
That's fair. Why not? Okay. So the next angle I wanted to come from is what's the ideal customer look like for you? So you predominantly gardening work with some mowing, but if you turn up to do a customer, how long do you want to spend in one place doing one job compared to doing lots of jobs back to back? Or what's your ideal customer look like in terms of time and the type of work?
Honestly, anything kind of specialty pruning is kind of my favorite. So coming into winter is my favorite season for gardening. Like, I love getting in and doing all the fruit tree pruning, getting all the rose pruning done, just getting everything really set up for the season after.
Yeah.
But generally, I like spending probably half a day to clients once a month. I get bored too easily.
Yeah.
Like, the best thing about my Monday client that I go to weekly is I suggest something and she's like, yep. Like, I can make any improvements, get anything, change anything, charge anything.
Yeah.
And as long as it just keeps looking good, she doesn't care. They buy me coffee every single week because they always get cafe coffee every morning.
Yeah.
So they always have one ready for me when I get there.
Yep.
And they're just great.
It's awesome. So gives you a variety of work to do, but the specialty pruning is where it's at, and spending up to half a day on one customer's property makes it good because you can actually make a significant difference in that amount of time.
Yeah, totally. Like, I have a good mix of ongoing clients and then I do a lot of one-offs because I just love getting into big overgrown places that need everything trimmed and shaped and a bunch of stuff removed. So last week I did a job where I got my partner to help me on this one, but we removed like 10 giant yuccas, removed a bunch of agapanthus, bunch of just like weeds and stuff that had overgrown everywhere, a bunch of grapevines that were just taking over sections of the yard.
Yeah.
And it was great fun. I love days like that. I just put my headphones on and listen to a book or a podcast, and next thing you know, it's sun's going down and I'm like, shit, I'm still working.
I can recommend a good podcast. So there's nothing more satisfying, I think, than removing a large yucca and knowing that you can take care of it so the customer's not going to be worried about it sprouting again and coming back. And it's like, okay, it's good to kill those plants, but it's
literally. So who I think you might know from LMCA, she's got the big pink van.
Yeah.
She told me about the slammer tool.
Yes.
So I brought one of them and oh my God, it is the best tool I think I've ever purchased in my life. Like my partner, it took him probably 10, 15 minutes to take out each yucca stump.
They're not a cheap tool, but for what they are, you're like, oh yeah, that should be a lot cheaper, but no, it's really worth it.
Well, I got a 9-kilo one, and including shipping, postage, or whatever, I think it was just over 400.
Yeah,
but that's
like you up
spent
that
more
sort of
on
price,
dumb things.
and that sort of price, you expect it to have a motor on it.
Nah, see, I love just getting in and using my hands a lot of the time. Like, I'd rather kind of, like, if I can get away with using my hedging shears over my hedge trimmers, I will every time.
Yeah, I'm actually leaning that direction at the moment. When I was in Melbourne, I went to the MIFGS, the International Flower and Garden Show, and I looked very lustfully at the Japanese hand shears. They've got the new curved ones, and so you can get the little hand scissors that are curved, but you can also get the full size hand shears that are curved as well. And I went down there thinking I would buy a set, and then they didn't really have a show special on. They were really busy and pretty much sold out. So I was like, I'll just buy a set off their website later.
I walked in. That was the first stall I saw, and I spent, I think, $250 on a pair of secateurs, and I got one of their leather holsters for the secateurs. That was also like $150. But I was like, business expense, it's fine. And they are the best secateurs I've ever used.
So did you get the Japanese secateurs or the
Yeah, they were like carbon fiber handle and stuff. They're great. They're so good.
So was that from the Shokunin stand or the
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've got the brand that is Japanese hand tools, and then you've got the Shokunin one, and then you've got, I think, Felco, and there was one other one as well, I think, that was interesting. But
yeah,
but
it's pretty good.
Shokunin is the one that has the curved shears. Yep, and they're
the shears I have are Japanese ones, but I don't have the curved ones. I just got one of the smaller pairs to do more detailed, kind of smaller work.
Well, those curved shears, I need to get paid for talking about them. Hey, they've been like the hot item this year, and I think talking to other people that have actually bought a set, when you're trimming topiary where you've got balls and curves, it just makes those curves come up so much smoother because you've already got a curved shear. So I'm keen.
Yeah, I might have to get some.
You'll think twice when you see the price tag.
Nah, see, I'm bad like that. If it's something that's going to make my job easier, make the end result better, I don't care.
And that's exactly what they will do. So, Shokunin, you need to listen to this and send me some money.
Yeah, send the pair of us a set of shears. Curved ones.
Curved ones, of course. Boy, we'll be ordering some soon, I think.
Yeah, I'll definitely be looking them up after this.
Yeah, they're impressive. And I had somebody message me end of last week. I met up with him down at Melbourne, and he's like, so did you get a pair of shears at the show? I was like, no. We'll be ordering some, though.
Did you get anything good at the show?
Contacts. So I met up with two people that were pre-arranged. And I bumped into a couple of people that I have talked to online. And then I stopped in at a couple of the stands and got business cards off people, and they were quite happy to talk to me and say, yeah, let's arrange an interview later. So
yeah, nice.
Yeah, so that was good. Got one show bag.
Nice.
But it was so worth going and seeing the designs that people have installed in a matter of a few days and then tear back down again at the end of the show. It's a pretty unique experience. You don't get that anywhere else in Australia. That is the place to be if you want to see that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's always great. It just gets so packed.
Yeah, well, I went on the Wednesday, first day it was open, I turned up at 9 o'clock in the morning. So by the time I left there, it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was like, I could stay for another half a day or even come back the following day and still enjoy it.
Yeah. See, I went first thing Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And it was hell. Like, I don't like big crowds at the best of times, which is why working alone is so nice.
Yeah.
But everyone was just walking everywhere, like just stopping in front of you. And I was just like, oh, get me out of here. So just did a quick hot lap around, purchased way too many things.
Yeah. It's way better to go on a business day rather than a weekend.
I always forget that it's open on a weekday.
Yeah. Well, I looked at that when I decided to go to Melbourne. It's like, I'll go down for the MIFGUS show. And I looked at what dates it was on. I was like, all right, I could potentially go any of the days, but going during the week gave me a lot of flexibility in terms of when I was doing my trip, when I was meeting up with other people.
Yeah.
It worked
Makes
well.
sense. Probably more industry people during the week.
Definitely. I think they do a industry night the first night. So we'll double check that. But yeah, they have like a gala dinner that's not cheap to go to, but good
I bet.
place to go to if you want to make contacts. And I'd seriously thought about it and I was like, no, I've got too many other things booked in while I'm there.
Fair.
Yeah. So, bouncing back to ideas with your business, we've sort of talked about the various things you do, the rates that you charge, and we've touched a little bit on some of the tools that you use. You mentioned Ego, so you do have a preference for battery tools over petrol tools?
I only have battery tools.
So no petrol tools, battery and
Nope.
mechanical.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So only my mower is Ego,
Okay.
but all my other tools are Makita.
Yeah, okay. That's a good brand to go with. I haven't actually got a set, but the Makita hedge trimmers are very well respected.
Yeah, well, I went with the 36-volt range.
Okay.
So when I first started the business, I didn't have any tools. So I just got the 36-volt one. And at the time, it came with a blower, all these extra attachments,
Yeah.
extra batteries because of all the promos they did.
Yeah.
So I built my kit out really quickly.
Nice.
With everything. And now I have pretty much every attachment for the multi-tool possible. Recip saw, circular saw, drills, like just everything. And I love it. I think it's a great platform.
Yeah.
I've never had any issues with it whatsoever.
I'm not loyal to any particular brand when it comes to these things at the moment, but certainly the Makita tools I've got in the 18-volt range are good. I have long thought about getting a Makita hedge trimmer just because everyone rates them so well. The one thing I hear with Makita that can be a bit of an issue, though, is in terms of them automatically switching off and then you have to power them back on before you can use them. And it depends which tool.
I don't know why people find that such an issue. Like, I've never even thought twice about it until I heard someone complaining about it on your podcast. I was like, if that's your biggest issue during the day, I want your life.
Yeah, and it depends on the brand as to how that works, right? So with Ego, like most of the Ego tools are on when the battery's on. So you've got to have your safety switches so that you don't accidentally start one of the Ego tools by accident. Husqvarna tools, because I'm basing it on what I've actually used, pretty much all have a on-off power button that you have to activate first, and it will power down. Most of them will power down if you leave it for 30 seconds, or I think the Husky blower might take like 5 minutes or something before it actually powers down. But yeah, I think Makita has that reputation for it's like 3 seconds before it switches off. I don't know if that sounds right.
Probably, but like that's where you're holding it anyway. So
Yeah.
like, why does pushing your thumb make it so difficult for people?
Yeah, and I guess most of the work you're doing with that tool, it's not actually going to create a dilemma anyway. It's only when you're stop starting. So if you're trimming a hedge and then you stop, take a look to see whether what it looks like, whether it's nice and square and where you need to take more off, you stop start on some of those things. Or if you got a customer interrupting you, then you stop starting. But that's, again, customer interrupting you, you're going to have to restart most tools anyway.
Yeah, like it's not like it's a hard button to push or it's in a dumb spot.
Yeah,
Like on all their tools, it's just
intuitive.
easy. Yeah, it just makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. And I think out of all the hand tool brands, Makita and Milwaukee are probably the two that stand out to me. I know AEG did a really big promo last year, but yeah, Milwaukee and Makita are probably the two that stand out to me as having made interesting inroads in our industry.
Well, I kind of went with Makita because it was at the time where everyone was struggling to get batteries in.
Yep.
Remember when there was that huge battery shortage?
And
I was like, well, you know what company's not going to have a shortage? Makita. So once I've got a great relationship with my local Total Tools now.
Yeah.
So those guys look after me so much.
That's awesome.
And I just get all my stuff through them. Like they'll give me discounts on most of the stuff I buy. They'll let me know if anything cool's coming in stock.
Yep.
Like one day I called them and I was like, I've run out of batteries with charge. Can you put 2 6 amps on charge? And I will be there in an hour to pick them up. And they were like, yep, sweet. So they charged them for me.
Ready to go.
So when I went in, I could just pick them up.
Nice. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
Awesome. So are there any other tools in your basket that we haven't really talked about? Interesting.
Oh, I use the Wolfgarten system for like all my hand tools and my rakes.
Yeah.
I use with them. So I've got a couple of the shorter hand held sticks, handles, whatever.
Yeah.
And then a big one, like a 1.2 meter long one with like a fan rake on it.
Yeah.
But I've got so many of their different bits and pieces. Brought a couple more at the garden show.
Yep.
And they're great because you save so much space on having all these random hand tools. And they're such good quality. Like you can't break them.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. I've not bought any myself, but people I've seen using them, they rave about how good they are. The quality is second to none.
Yeah, it's worth it because like I spend a lot of my time like hand weeding or getting weeds out of dumb little cracks and stuff.
Yeah.
So I just got a little tool and I just scrape it out. Easy.
Awesome. Very good. So most of their tools got a detachable head, right? So you just have your 2 or 3 different handles, and then you just put the different head on the handle according to whatever you need, and off you go.
Yeah. Which is brilliant. I've just got because they attach, they've got like a little hole in one end. So I just hang them up inside my toolbox.
Yeah.
And then just have the handles above them and easy. Can just grab the couple I need, clip them on, and good to go.
Awesome. Very good. So aside from tools, with your business, have you looked at adopting any particular systems in your business that help you to be more efficient in any ways? So I'm thinking specifically things like using a CRM scheduling app or accounting package, or I've talked about the profit first accounting principles. Anything along those lines?
I use Sortscape, which I'm not technology minded in the slightest. It took me probably a year of the first year of business using Sortscape to actually use it properly. I was only using it to like put the customers in so I had them on a schedule.
Yeah.
And then I spoke to Kyla, who you had on the podcast recently.
Yes.
And she was so kind and patient and answered every single question, no matter how dumb it was. And I finally got it set up. So now when get in the car after I finish a job, I can click about 3 buttons and the invoice is emailed to them.
Awesome.
So makes it so much easier. And then I don't have to think about it after that. Done. Sent.
So from when you started your business up until you got that all sorted out, you would have been doing manual invoicing?
I had an Excel spreadsheet that I'd go in and edit and change the client's details and all the prices and literally sit on my computer for like 20 minutes just invoicing and looking up their addresses on my phone on Sortscape. And it was just so dumb. Like, once I just put everyone's details in, it's so easy. But I was like, oh, that means I'm going to have to sit down and put everyone's email addresses in and put all their new details in.
Yeah.
But I just started doing it, like each invoice I did, I added their email in. So then eventually I kind of caught up to having everyone's details in there. So now I always email my quotes.
Mm.
And so then I've got their emails. So from the day I do their quote, I've got all their details saved in Sortscape. It could just be sent off.
Awesome. So what's your favorite feature with Sortscape?
Just invoicing. Like, it's literally the greatest thing to just click. Like, because a lot of my jobs aren't the exact same price every visit, or I need to add a bag of waste or add this product.
Yep.
Like, it just depends on what's going on. But I can just click edit, add an item, save, invoice, send, done.
Unreal.
So it makes it so much easier. And then I've got a bookkeeper and an accountant, so I don't have to think about any of that stuff. They just message me when they're like, you haven't given us this receipt. What's this purchase for? And that's it. I just thoughtless. They deal with it all.
That's the way you want it. Yeah. No, I just interviewed Bill and Chris yesterday from Sortscape.
Oh, you got onto them.
So that was the interview I was doing before I was going to interview you yesterday, and then it was so it's good timing. I've done interview with Kyla and then Renee, and then got yours, and then we've got the one coming out with Bill and Chris from Sortscape. So that will give people a nice spectrum of customers that use Sortscape, and then hearing from the founders as well.
Like, honestly, if you've got a bunch of regulars and you need a good software that links up to your like Xero or MYOB or whatever it is, Sortscape is literally the biggest time saver, headache saver, and they're just brilliant. Like, they emailed me at like 11 p.m. one night because they could see I was trying to do something and couldn't figure it out. So they emailed me and they were like, do you need a hand? And I was like, yes, can you make this work?
Yeah.
And they were like, yep, done. Here you go. Fixed it for me.
Nice.
I was like, great. That's exactly what I need.
Yeah. Well, I've heard, I think any CRM is going to help you systematize and make your business more efficient. But Sortscape, when I first heard about it, the thing that stood out was it's simple and basic. And having talked to several Sortscape users over the last month or so, and talking to Bill and Chris as well, it seems like they've maintained the simplicity and ease of use, but they keep on adding features to make it more and more advanced. And that's got to be the balancing point that they're looking at now, is going, how do we make sure we've got useful features, a feature-rich ecosystem without it becoming too complex?
Yeah, well, I only noticed this morning, I think, that there's now a quotes tab.
Yes.
So I'll be interested the next time I do a quote if I can format it kind of how I like to. Because my quotes are very in-depth. They're quite over the top. But I feel like that's kind of what makes me stand out a bit.
Yeah, and that works well for you because it means that your customers know exactly what they're paying for.
And then there's no arguments of you didn't do this, you didn't do that. I'm like, you have like an A4 page written out of exactly what I'm going to do.
That's great. Yeah. Well, Ali, I'm just thinking about what we've talked about. I think we've covered most of the things that I wanted to cover with you. Is there anything that we should touch on before we finish up?
Probably just how difficult it is being a female in a male-dominated
Of course.
industry.
And that's one of the reasons why I've interviewed Kyla, Renee, yourself, and I'm looking at other women. I've done interviews with women right throughout the whole time I've been doing the podcast, but it's probably, I think I said to Kyla, it's probably like less than 3% of the interviews that I've done are with women. And that's indicative of the amount of people available to do interviews and people in the industry. But yeah, so that is something interesting. And I guess interacting with guys or blokes or whatever else that are in the industry or rude customers, things like that, would be challenging for you.
Yeah, generally most of my clients are women, so I have no issues on the client front.
Okay.
But the men, like I could be working next door to a guy and he'll just look me up and down, give me a dirty look and walk away. And I'm just like, you could say hi. Like, I'm not that scary.
Yeah.
Or like when I used to go to the tip and I'd be unloading, they would literally just gawk at me.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's your problem?
Yeah.
So like, same with in the few groups, like the men just don't understand that women are just as capable and just as good at their job.
Yeah.
And like they can just be very condescending for no reason.
Yep.
So like it can be really tough. It can be really isolating. Like I'm lucky that I have found a group of female business owners and we all chat regularly to stop that feeling of isolation.
That's good.
From the men in the industry.
Yeah.
Because being a female business owner in a male-dominated world, you just get treated so poorly. Like, but nothing is made to accommodate women either. Like, there's workwear brands that actually fit a woman's body who's not a size 6 and wants to wear tight, skinny leg work pants. Like, I can't be bending up and down in skinny, skin-tight work pants.
Yep, that's fair.
And that's all that they accommodate to in women's workwear.
Yeah, and otherwise it's men's workwear that might have a pink stitch on that.
Literally, and like they'll just be built the same as men's anyway, like or too skinny.
Yeah.
So it's like all these companies brag about inclusivity and, you know, supporting women in trades, but then don't do anything about it. But like that's why my local Total Tools is great, and most Total Tools, I'm sure a lot of women find, are super accepting and supportive of women in any industry, because they do a lot of things for supporting like women in trades.
Yep.
They just don't have any prejudice, where there's another tool store brand that I won't name. But you go in and they are so notoriously sexist.
Yeah.
I went in just to get a small roll of whippercord one day, and I was with my partner who's like a 6'3" big burly bloke.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, where's your like snipper cord? And they turn to my partner and they go, oh, what size are you after? He's like, I don't fucking know. Ask her. And they were just like, oh. And I was like, yeah, 2.4. Is that okay? And like, or when I went to get the chainsaw pole extension attachment, whatever it's called, I was like, oh, can I just grab one of these? And he's like, do you even have the multi-tool? And I was like, do you think I'm going to wave this around the air? Like, do you think I'm just going to like wave this at a tree and hope it cuts it?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It is a challenge in our industry, and it is good to see. I know on Instagram, this is the platform that I still can use. I see a podcast that's been put out specifically for women in the trades, and I see a lot of female tradies that are starting to post content, which is great to see. And I've got to make sure I don't look like I'm a stalker actually following women in trades, but it is great to see. But in our industry, I guess that's, like I said, my interviews, it's at about 3%. So it's...
I feel like a lot of women are a bit more shy or humble or don't want to brag, because whenever you do in a group like LMCA, you get shot down, you get spoken to like you're dumb, you get questioned, you get almost abused. Like the amount of men from that group that have messaged me privately over a comment I've made just completely abusing me is actually disgusting. The amount of men from that group I have blocked and that are still in the group happily. Same with a lot of other women in the group, just get abused if they post.
Yep.
So that's why you generally don't see many women actually interacting much anymore. And I feel like that is a great example of what it's like even in person with a lot of these people.
Unfortunately, stereotypes are not going to go away quickly. And one of the first things I noticed in the group, and I told my wife when I saw it, was a young, blonde, skinny girl posted a question in the group, and there was 300 replies within half an hour. And it's like, if you don't fit the stereotypical beautiful, then you're not a damsel in distress, and you're just a pain in the proverbial.
Yep.
And that's unfortunately the way that women get viewed when it comes to anything practical like that a lot of the time. It is good to see that these things do change, but that's certainly still obvious within community groups like that, where you just get, the squeaky wheel is supposed to be the one that gets oiled, but it's the beautiful woman that gets all the attention and everyone else just gets treated like trash, right?
Yeah.
And
but in saying all this, if you see a female gardener out in the wild, just say hello. Just be nice.
Yeah.
Don't be a creep. Don't be a smartass.
Yep.
Just treat them like you would anyone else. Ask how the day's going.
Well,
it's not that hard.
I think there's good value in recognizing strengths and weaknesses too, and going, okay, I've got a female employee, and I prefer to have a female employee than a male employee because attention to detail is generally better. And we're generalizing, but let's just go with that. That's generally better value, right? Men might be stronger generally, but it doesn't mean it's true in all situations. So when we're generalizing like that, we go, okay, there's strengths and weaknesses where you can play to that, and you can go that is so much value having women in our industry. They offer additional benefits in our industry that men don't always get right. And, one of them might come down to you've got horticultural certificate. You actually know something about plants. And if I was to be very honest with you, when it comes to plant names, I have not got a clue. So having somebody like my employee, I can go and bounce off her, hey, what do you know about this? And can you add your thoughts to this? And sometimes I know more than she does. Sometimes she knows more than me. So it's great. But yeah, it doesn't take a lot to just maintain a little bit of human decency, right?
Yeah. And that's all women in any trade is asking for.
It shouldn't have to be asked. It should be just that's the baseline, right? You don't want to hear stories. And unfortunately, when I listen to the Women in the Trades podcast, the stories of women getting treated as objects as on the work site is just ridiculous. Shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Yep. For sure. And hopefully, I will keep on making sure I interview women and make sure I give fair opportunity for women to be interviewed on the podcast. It's still going to be predominantly men because that's what the industry is. But yeah, hopefully over the time that we're both in the industry, we do see more progress.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a lot more interest from women. So
for sure.
Hopefully the numbers start improving more and more as the years go on.
Yeah, look, I think when it comes to specifically horticulture and the gardening aspects of let's call it landscape maintenance, right? Lawn mowing, you're probably going to have more men. Gardening and the horticultural understanding of plants, there's opportunities where women can be a bigger part of the industry than men. And even though we can generalize, there's nothing stopping women from being a part of the industry and nothing stopping men from showing a little bit of human decency when it comes to how we treat everybody.
Yeah, it's intimidating to step into an industry where all the men are saying very vile, disgusting things on what is supposed to be a semi-professional forum online to be like, wow, that feels like a great community for a woman to go into. Like, I bet you none of those people speak around their partner or their daughters or their mothers the way they speak about us if we pull them up on saying something super problematic. But that's just one group. It's a shame that it reflects a big number of people in the industry, but
Yeah.
hopefully slowly but surely they will learn that it's not hard to have respect.
Hey, Ali, it's been great to talk to you today. I really appreciate your time, and it's been a good interview. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Aussie Lawn Stars. Please remember to rate and review the show on the Apple Podcasts app or the player you use. Exciting new shows are released every Monday. Make sure you follow or subscribe to hear the next episode.